All right, here's the second part of our look at solving inequalities in section 1.4 of calculus. One of the things you're going to have to do is to evaluate an inequality, you're going to have to factor, and then from that factoring come up with a conclusion. So before I even factor, this is a parabola because it's x squared, it opens up, the a value is positive. So I'm really looking for where's this parabola above the x-axis where it's greater than 0. So when I factor this expression, really I'm looking for the answer. What do these two things multiply to be greater than 0? So one of the things we can do is use a sign analysis. So when I look at each factor individually, x minus 4 will be 0 at 4. And if the number is greater than 4, that factor will be positive. It will be negative if x is less than. And then we have a minus 2, a 0, still positives if it's greater than, negatives if it's less than. And then underneath we have the combination. What happens when we multiply a negative times a negative? Well, on this side of minus 2, we get a 0. 0 times minus 2 is 0. A positive times a negative is a negative. 0 times 4 is 0. Sorry, this one should be a positive. And then a positive times a positive is a positive. What this tells me about the parabola is that it crosses at minus 2 and 4, and between it, it is below the x-axis and above on the other side. You do not need to draw that, but that gives you a picture of what it is asking for. And then what really the question is, where's it's greater than 0? Well, from there to there, and then from 4 to infinity. So we should answer that if I want to use a solution set using interval notation. There are two intervals. It's either in the interval from negative infinity to minus 2, or in the interval from 4 to infinity. And notice the brackets are open because it's just greater than. So nothing too terribly hard, and certainly things you've done before. If you have factors or terms on both sides, we need to move them to one side, then factor, and then it would be the same process. Sign analysis, this time we would be looking for where it's minus, and then also you're going to have closed intervals because it's less than or equal to. But otherwise, it's the same question that we just did. Now, some questions you're not going to be able to factor very easily, such as this one. Do we know anything about this graph from looking at it right now? Where is it greater than 0? And I look to factor it. What multiplies to minus 2 but adds to minus 2? I don't know. So what are my options? Well, I know this parabola opens up. What I need to find is where it crosses the x-axis. You might be thinking, well, quadratic formula. Minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a would be 4. We go to simplify that. 4 plus 8 is 12. And if I simplify that, which can be simplified to this, if I divide everything by 2, that would be my answer. Now I know this parabola opens up, and I know there's two different values here. One take away root 3 over 2 and one plus root 3. So one of the zeros will be positive, one of them will be probably just on the other side of negative, and it's going to go like so without, again, not doing everything exact here, but that's 1 plus root 3 over 2, and then this is 1 minus root 3 over 2, which would be just on the other side of the y-axis, but get the picture. And then the question is saying, well, where is that greater than 0? So where it's greater than 0 is on either side of those points, and so you would answer with these being your answers in the set notation or the interval notation. What about this guy? X squared plus 5x plus 7. Can't do that. So I can't factor. I go to the quadratic formula. B squared minus 4 times 1 times 7 divided by 2a is 1. We'll look at this. We get a negative 3 under there. What does that mean? I want you to think about that. For the graph, if you picture this parabola, what does it mean and what is the answer? You're going to end up with the same thing in this question. what happens when you plug that into the quadratic formula? We get minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, another negative underneath the root sign. And these two questions are different. And I'll give you a hint. One of them has an answer. Well, pardon me, they both have answers, but they're different because that one is less than and one is greater than or equal to. Think about that. See if you can come up with that answer. We'll talk about it at the beginning of class. Some questions will also require you to factor many times or use the factor theorem, and you can see the answer for this one. When you factor, you get this. Then you would do your sign analysis, and because you're looking for where it's greater than 0, that means you're going to be looking for where you get plus signs, and you're going to again have closed intervals because it's also equal to. So that's it. We'll get some practice next class, and I will see you then.